Have you ever had a day that felt like the end of the world? A day where everything you worked for seemed to crumble right before your eyes. I want to tell you a story about a young man named Ravi, and a day just like that. It's a story about failure, but more importantly, it's about what comes after. Ravi lived in a small apartment in a bustling city, but his dreams were anything but small. For weeks, he had been preparing for one thing, a job interview at a top tech company. This wasn't just any job, it was the job, the one that could change his life. The one that would make all his years of hard work and late-night studying finally pay off. He imagined himself walking into that shiny office building, not as a visitor, but as part of the team. He saw himself solving complex problems, creating amazing things, and finally giving his family the comfortable life they deserved. The morning of the interview, the city hummed with its usual energy, but Ravi's world was quiet and tense. A knot of nervousness was tied deep in his stomach. He looked at himself in the mirror, straightening his tie for the 10th time. "You've got this," he whispered, but his own voice sounded hollow, unsure. Doubt was a little voice in his head asking, "Are you really good enough? What if you fail?" He pushed the voice away, grabbed his portfolio and walked out the door, his heart pounding a nervous rhythm against his ribs. The interview was a blur of challenging questions and technical problems. Ravi did his best, drawing on everything he had learned. He walked out of the building feeling a strange mix of exhaustion and hope. He had given it his all. Now, all he could do was wait. A week later, the email arrived. His hands trembled as he clicked it open. The words were polite, professional, but the message was clear. "We regret to inform you." He didn't need to read the rest. He wasn't selected. The screen went blurry as his eyes filled with tears. The dream that had been so vivid, so close, had just vanished. That rejection hit him like a physical blow. A heavy blanket of sadness settled over him, making it hard to breathe, hard to think. The vibrant city outside his window seemed gray and dull. He felt tired, not just physically, but a deep soul-crushing exhaustion. The little voice of doubt was back, but this time it was shouting, "See, I told you, you're not good enough. You're a failure." For the first time, Ravi thought about giving up. Maybe his dreams were too big. Maybe he should just settle for something less, something easier. The path he was on felt too painful, too full of disappointment. He spent the next few days in a fog, aimlessly scrolling on his phone, avoiding calls from his family. He didn't want to tell them he had failed. He felt ashamed. One evening, sitting in the dark, he found an old notebook from his college days. On the first page, in his own messy handwriting, he had written, "My dream is to build things that help people." He remembered the excitement he felt when he wrote those words, remembered the passion that drove him to spend countless hours learning to code, the thrill of solving a difficult problem, the joy of creating something from nothing. He remembered why he started. It wasn't just about a fancy job title or a big salary. It was about that feeling, that purpose. Giving up now would mean giving up on that kid who wrote those words, the one who believed he could make a difference. A tiny spark flickered inside him. It was small, but it was there. He closed the notebook and made a decision. This was not the end. Ravi went back to his computer, not to look for another job, but to learn. He analyzed the interview questions he had struggled with, realized there were gaps in his knowledge. That first failure hadn't just been a rejection, it was a roadmap. It showed him exactly where he was weak and what he needed to improve. So, he started studying again, but this time with a new focus. He wasn't just studying to pass an interview. He was studying to become a true master of his craft. The journey wasn't easy. He faced more failures along the way. A freelance project didn't go as planned. Another job application was ignored. Each setback stung, but it didn't break him. Each failure was a lesson. The botched project taught him about better communication with clients. The ignored application pushed him to completely redesign his resume and portfolio. He wasn't just getting smarter, he was getting stronger, more resilient. He was learning to see failure not as a wall, but as a stepping stone. Several months passed. Ravi was a different person. He was still the same dreamer, but now his dreams were backed by stronger skills and a tougher mindset. Then an opportunity came. Another top company, one even more prestigious than the first, announced they were hiring. He hesitated for a moment, the memory of his first big failure flashing in his mind. But then he remembered everything he had learned since. He took a deep breath and sent in his application. This time, when he got the call for an interview, something was different. The knot of nervousness was still there, but it was smaller. It was overshadowed by a quiet confidence. He walked into that interview, not hoping to be good enough, but knowing he was. The questions were tough, even tougher than before. But this time he was ready. He answered with clarity and precision, not just giving textbook answers, but sharing insights he had gained from his own projects, and yes, his own failures. He walked out of that interview with a smile. He didn't know if he would get the job, but it didn't matter in the same way. He was proud of the person he had become. He had faced his biggest fear and hadn't backed down. A few days later, his phone rang. It was the hiring manager. "Ravi," she said, "we were incredibly impressed. We'd like to offer you the position." A wave of pure joy washed over him. He had done it. He got the job. As he stood there looking out his apartment window, the city seemed to sparkle. But it wasn't the job or the salary that made him feel so proud. It was the journey. He looked back at the person he was a year ago, crushed by one rejection. He realized that day, that awful, terrible day, was not the end. It was the beginning. That failure wasn't a dead end. It was a detour that led him to exactly where he needed to be. It forced him to learn, to grow, and to become the person who was truly ready for success. So if you're facing a failure right now, if you've had one of those days that feels like the end of the world, remember Ravi. Remember that failure is not a final verdict on your worth. It's a teacher. It's a guide. It's the tough love you need to prepare you for the success you are dreaming of. One bad day, one rejection, one closed door can be the very thing that opens up your entire future. Don't give up. Keep learning, keep growing, and know that your best days are still ahead. Thanks so much for listening. If this story resonated with you, please consider liking this video and subscribing for more stories that inspire and uplift. See you next time.